Mr. Hurt, could you do the roll call?
Yes, Mr. Hurd here, Mr. Moore. Here. Mr. McGinnis.
Here.
Mr. Bohan. Ms. Remart.
Here.
Ms. Washington. Mr. Horstman. Mr. Harper.
Here.
Mr. Davis. Mr. Neal.
Here.
Mr. Barhu.
Here.
You have a quorum.
For the record, Mr. Hoitzman did call in and indicated he had an accident about a week ago and hasn't recovered enough where he felt comfortable trying to come in here. Apologized.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. The minutes, July 25th, so we'll take them 1 month at a time. Any changes? I know I called in some grammatical changes. I think Mr. McGinnis did. Anyone else? Okay. A motion. I need a motion.
Approved.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, August 22, same thing. I know I called in just minor spelling stuff, and Mr. McGinnis did. Anyone else? Okay.
Motion to approve, August 22nd.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. None of us are opposed. Okay, a new item. Actually, could you read it for us, Mr. Secretary?
Rezoning residential planned unit development, Eagle Landing, DEV 2013-062, quasi-judicial hearing.
Okay, could we hear from staff?
Thank you. Dennis Mrozek, planner with the City of Daytona Beach. Again, the first and only item tonight is the request to rezone the properties, 7.63 acres of land, from R2A multifamily to RPUD residential plan unit development. I do have some aerials, as always, give you a general location of the site. A little difficult. It appears to be landlocked. You'll see the Clyde Morris is located in the blue, running to the north-south, just east of the just west of the property. Property over here is highlighted in red. Bellevue extension to Clyde Morris, and then the picking up the Bellevue extension. Give you an aerial. Shows you the undeveloped property. We're here. This is the city's Waste Pro site, located adjacent to the property, and you see the cemetery to the north. The future land use of the property is level 2 residential. And the zoning of the property, on the left-hand side, current zoning is R2A. Right-hand side, proposed zoning is RPUD. For the Eagle Landing RPUD, the site is approximately 7.6 acres. The site is vacant and undeveloped. A proposed 144-unit apartment complex is proposed for the site, which does include 4 residential buildings, each with 36 units. There is a clubhouse and a swimming pool proposed. As far as parking for the site is required to have 288 parking spaces, automobile parking spaces. 302 are provided. The site will also be providing for 16 motorcycle parking spaces. Wanted to kind of give you an overview of how the site may look into the proposed area. You can kind of have an idea of the general building layout is. It's a little difficult to see, but we do have all of the information in your planning board packet. But the buildings are located along the back side of the property. Retention area up front. There's some parking that wraps around the facility. Along the top of the north side of the property is where you find the existing right-of-way, and that's the Terrace Avenue right-of-way. The applicant will be responsible. He's proposing construction of the Terrace Avenue right-of-way to go out all the way to Clyde Morris. You see that area over there in the red? It'll be going through the city's Waste Pro site, and it'll be exiting at Clyde Morris. The area in the yellow is really an emergency access, secondary access point. The area will be cleared and stabilized to allow emergency vehicles and emergency access to the east. I have some elevations. These are all available in your packet. 3-story buildings. Got the side and front elevation. Also the clubhouse there on the bottom right-hand side. And I do have a few of the color renderings of the site, which are also included in your packet. As far as waiver requests, there are 3 waiver requests that the applicant has. The first one is off-site signage. Just to give you an orientation, as I mentioned before, the Terrace Avenue is going to be coming out all the way to Clyde Morris. The yellow is Clyde Morris. The green will be the new improved Terrace Avenue. We're calling it Terrace Avenue at this point. The street name may change in the future. You see along both sides of Terrace Avenue, there's 2 circles over there. That's where the proposed off-site signage is. There'll be easements that would have to be created. That'll be city right-of-way to be able to have the off-site signage. And there's a rendering of or a picture of the proposed signage type that would be going on either side of Terrace Avenue. Another waiver request is for the height of the building. Within this particular zoning district, there's a maximum height of 35 feet. The applicant had requested a maximum height of 50 feet. Doing the actual calculations on the buildings, the way we measure the buildings, it's from the eave to the top of the building. So the building height is actually only 37.5 feet. So the increase would really only be until be to 37.5 feet. 50-foot height limitation, it's something that could be approved. It could also probably be limited to 37.5 feet, and maybe the applicant can speak a little bit further on that if that number would work for him. I should point out that the FAA, with the proximity of the buildings, the FAA is going to have to approve this project and grant a permit for that. As far as the other waiver request, specimen tree preservation requirements. As far as the tree preservation area, 49,000 square feet of tree preservation area is required. And I've asked the applicant if he can maybe come up with some numbers on exactly what it is that is being proposed for the tree preservation area. It's just not, I don't believe it's going to be meeting that number, though. And as far as a recommendation, staff does recommend approval to rezone the 7.63 acres of land from R2A to residential plan unit development. The item is tentatively scheduled to be heard by the City Commission for first reading on November 6th and for second reading on November 20th in 2013. An affirmative vote of 6 shall be required to recommend approval to the City Commission. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Any questions for staff? Okay. I have a couple. The road, Terrace Avenue to Clyde Morris, who pays for that?
The applicant would be responsible for doing those improvements.
Okay, and they would have to, I mean, that's a road, that's not just an access road, that's a road that would have to meet city standards,
It would
right?
be built to city standards.
Okay. And if it were approved, I know you said to, hear from the applicant, but if it were approved with a 50-foot height limit, they would have to, if they wanted to build higher up to that or change their design, they'd have to come back for an amendment, right? That wouldn't fall into the little minor adjustment.
If they wanted to go above the 50, or
No,
if
if they wanted to
build
go up to
50?
the 50, because
If-
that
well-
leaves them a significant amount of,
Well, what would happen is if they were to go up to 50 feet, they'd be providing additional units. By providing the additional units, they'd have to have additional parking. They'd have to redesign their whole
Right.
plan, which means they'd have to come back.
okay,
So,
okay. So it's not just an easy thing
No,
to
it's,
pop up to 50.
it would create a wave of,
Domino?
yes.
Okay, okay. All right. Could we hear from the applicant?
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
I
thought,
have one more, actually,
Okay.
something you brought up
Okay.
reminded me of a conversation that Dennis and I had earlier this week. The road will be constructed and paid for by the applicant, but turned over to the city after construction?
I believe it'd be the city option if the city wanted to take over control of the street for maintenance of the street, and I don't think there'd be any problem with the city. I don't think we'd offered any objection to that.
Some of the negotiations they're doing with the Public Works Department and Waste Pro, who actually controls the city property, I think the applicant doesn't really want that road anyway. So, and I think, I know Public Works would prefer to have it be a public once it's built to city standards.
Okay. And the monument signs on each side of that road would then be on city property.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. That made me think of a question.
I had several. Specifically, I saw the outlined places where the signage would go. Is that specifically, where is it? Because the entrance would be through the property, the waste disposal place.
Yeah, let me pull it up. If you guys can pull up the display one more time, I'll go ahead and get that for you. Okay, this is the, I'm going to back up right over to there. As you see, this is the full development over here. Here's the Waste Pro site over here. This is where the terrace would be coming out through this location right over here, which is Clyde Morris. The locations of the signs would be on this side of terrace and on this side of terrace as you enter into this development. I've got a close-up over here, show you a little bit better. Again, this would be the entrance. So this is the terrace. This is Clyde Morris over here in yellow. There'd be a sign on this side of the street and a sign on this side of the street.
Okay, got that. The other question, on the height of the building, which Ms. Remark mentioned, with this development being where it is in proximity to the airport, going up to 50 feet, would that have to go back for approval through the FAA?
Well, they're going to have to go to the FAA to get approval for the height that they're proposing anyway. So we're going to have they're actually going to reduce the height, the maximum height from 50 to 37.5, since that's all they need, and that's what they'd be presenting to the FAA as far as what their height is.
Okay.
Okay. The last
That's easy.
last question I had was with reference to the specimen tree preservation. I started making notes and got into, I guess I just lost track. Would you repeat that statement?
As far as what's required, I believe that there's 40-something thousand square feet of area that would be required based on the overall area of the site. They're not maintaining, they're not preserving that much area. This is one of the waivers that they're asking for. There's certain reasons why they're unable to preserve the location of those trees, having to do with fill that needs to be brought in for the site, and then also the elevation change in the site too. And I can have the applicant speak a little bit more on that. And I've asked them to come with numbers of exactly what is being preserved out there, what's the area out there that is being preserved. So.
I'd like to hear that.
All right. But that also, what Mr. McGinnis said made me think the monument signs are then going to be on city property. So if someone has an accident, hits those signs, who's liable?
Well,
Because I, as a taxpayer in the city, don't want to be.
That,
Is there a liability?
first off, it's city property today. How that gets purchased by them, how that gets constructed, all the legal
Easements
things
and
that
the-
they have to work out prior
Okay.
to getting their final site plan approval.
Okay.
So all those
So that's not
details-
just going to be public property that has some private sign on it
I don't know if there'll be
eventually?
easements or not, but that'll be all worked through.
Okay,
prior
and
to
liability, okay.
approved.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions that came up for anyone? Okay, now we'll hear from the applicant.
thank you.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, good evening. My name is Jeff Brock, and I represent our 444 Seabreeze Boulevard, Suite 900, Daytona Beach, Florida, and I represent the applicant Lohman Apartments, LLC. This evening, we have Mr. Ty Lohman, who's one of the principals of the limited liability company, to answer any questions you might have. We also have the engineer of record, Parker Mitchenberg, here to answer any questions that you might have. So with that, I'll just open it up to questions from the board.
Okay. Well, we had the follow-up questions, tree preservation. Who wants to deal with that?
Steve, do you want to field that one?
Good evening, Steve Buswell with Parker Mitchenberg and Associates. I'm the engineer of record as well as the landscape architect. One of the slides that Dennis had shown kind of illustrated some of the grading challenges, and if you imagine kind of those contour lines shown, it's going from elevation 56 on the west side down to 20. So to organize ADA compliant sidewalks and streets with proper slopes, there needed to be a cut and fill balance. So there is one historic tree. We saved that cluster. We did everything we could to work around that tree. The other trees we're saving are a 26-inch oak, a 34-inch oak, an 18-inch oak, and the large 38-inch historic oak. The remaining of the specimen trees, there's a total of 38. We're required, based on that density, to preserve 50% of those. That's where we fall short. We preserve 4 instead of 19. We are, however, planning a total of 151 trees on site. The area, that 15% area, if you go by the calculation, 7.63 times that 15% gives you 1.14 acres of basically landscape buffer areas that are going to be preserved. We have a total of 1.22. We actually increased the buffers on both the east and west side to 20 feet above the actual 10-foot that's required. So again, we're planning. There's also the large area that you see, that open area by the pond. Again, if there were trees that were at an elevation that we could save, we did. They may not be specimen, but they are index trees, protected trees. So we've done what we could. It's very challenging given the elevation change, which is, few, areas in Daytona actually have that. This one happens to be one.
Okay. Other questions? Okay.
What are the specs on the trees that you're planting?
They are the city required 2.5-inch caliper trees, Florida grade standard #1.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Will the easement question be, I guess it will be satisfied before you appear before the city commission?
I'm sorry, maybe you guys forgot while I was gone. You have to talk into your microphones so it gets picked up.
The easements for the signage, that will be settled before it goes to the city commission then, right?
Yes, what we anticipate is between now and the city commission hearing is to negotiate the boilerplate or legalese with counsel for the city. And of course, the liability will be addressed in the easement. And before any construction, obviously, that would have to be of record before that any improvements were placed on city property.
Okay. Height, you said you're going to be doing 37.5 feet. That works for you?
Yes.
So that's a waiver that we could remove from here, and you would be...
Well, it's still going to be 2.5 foot.
I know, the 50-foot
Right.
is what I'm saying, that we could make it. Do you want 38 feet, just in case there's another 6 inches, someone, you just
Sure.
make it even? Okay. Well, just in case, you don't, okay. Other questions from the board? Okay, I had just a couple, actually one other question. You're really happy with this design?
Yes.
Okay, are you sort of expecting maybe, out of curiosity, it sort of looks like barracks to me. Okay, if you were on a thoroughfare, this design would not pass.
Ty Loman, Ormond Beach, Florida. Yes, we're pretty happy with the design.
Oh.
We're a little bit limited as to the size of the property because it's long and narrow.
Uh-huh.
So we're limited as far as scope, as far as going higher with elevations also. So we had to do some things that, we normally wouldn't do. We tried to save as many trees as we possibly could. So, but yes, we're happy with the design.
Okay.
We know it looks a little sterile. We're going to put all kinds of trees and everything. If you've ever seen our funeral homes before, we're going to make sure it looks absolutely
I
gorgeous.
know, I mean, when I looked up you guys
sterile.
online, this is not, there are some interesting things that could be done just even on the outside of the building to give it some life other than paint, but, okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. And also, I don't think we have a green sheet from you. We'll
No.
probably need one. Just before you leave, that would be, oh, great, thank you. Okay. Let's hear from the public then. All right, anybody opposed that wants, okay. Could you come up, give your name and address?
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bob Bonner, and I own the property immediately east of this proposed project. I've lived there for 33 years, and I have some rental property there, and my sister's home and my home, and a business. And I'm very much concerned about the obvious impact of a project of this size, you know, right next door to my place. I'm concerned about the quote-unquote emergency road opening from the original Terrace Avenue westward up to the project, which would go right past my house and my property, disturbing the tranquility, obviously, on my place. It's been very quiet there for many years, and I enjoy living there. So I have concerns about that. The noise factor, obviously, water runoff from the hill, up on the top of the hill, could be a problem. There's a I think it's a 4-foot diameter forced sewage main going right up the easement. And this project apparently has a lift station, you know, proposed in here. And does this lift station hook into that force main or not? You know, what's the impact here? So I have questions, not all of which I can think of right now. But that's why I wanted to come to the first meeting and just voice them.
Okay.
Is the roadway Terrace Avenue from Clyde Morris proposed, ending at the edge of the property, you know, and then continuing past my land all the way down to the original Terrace Avenue, which runs north to south? Is that going to remain open? And if so, there'll be plenty of traffic around my place. So I'm concerned about these things.
Okay. Could we have, we'll get some,
I can speak on that.
Okay.
Quickly. The proposal is to improve Terrace Avenue from Clyde Morris to the end of the development. After the development, what was required by the fire department was to have a secondary access based on the number of units. There is an existing right-of-way that runs out to the east. What they're going to be doing is clearing some of the trees that are over there and stabilizing that area to be able to satisfy the existing stabilized right-of-way to get some of the emergency vehicles that would maybe need to access that area to the east.
but would they be paving that? Like a road, or is it just going to be like a right-of-way?
Well, this is going to be depending on Public Works and what they would find acceptable.
Okay.
What the stabilized material would be. It typically wouldn't be a formally paved or concrete area. A lot of times it'll be, you know, a shell type.
Right,
or
a shell, okay.
Yeah, something a little bit more compact that would work there.
Because it's only designed for emergency
For
vehicles,
emergency
not regular
vehicles.
traffic.
That's it, just for emergency vehicles, correct.
But this would be a throughway for any vehicle that would come past it. For instance, kids riding in their trucks, you know, wouldn't they be able to come from the project area and through there and down past my property?
It's
possible.
It's possible, sure.
I see it as a necessary thing with the project. That's why I have misgivings about the project.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I have misgivings about the project.
Could I ask staff?
I think the applicant needs to address that. The right-of-way exists there today, sir. Someone could drive through there, someone could travel through there today legally all the way to Nova.
Oh, I know. I realize that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm perfectly aware of that. In fact, it's I think it's on paper a shady place, you know, and it goes up there past my place. It was opened up just after I bought my place, and the city put their force main in there, and I use that roadway there. So I just have, you know, these kind of concerns. Obviously, for me as a homeowner, I'm sitting there wondering, what's the residential impact going to be to me in my quiet little place there, you know? I'm not objecting to much of what would have to be done. This would have to be done, it would have to be opened, but it would certainly make an impact on me, that's all I'm saying.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you very much, Mr. Bonner.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Bonner, could you fill out one of those green sheets for us so we get your name and address correct for thank you. Anyone else wishes to speak opposed? Okay. Anyone in the public that wants to speak for this? Okay, so saying we'll close the public meeting portion. And can I just ask staff one thing? This is coming forward as a PUD because of the waiver needs, right? It's actually would be meeting the density of R2. It meets the underlying density of what could be built there right now for what this is zoned for, correct?
Yes, the 3 waivers are the only 3 that's needed.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Board.
I'd just like to make some comments. That,
Okay.
The tree thing always bothers us, but you can see when you drive by that site, you can see what they were talking about, the different elevations. There's no way they've done everything they can to preserve as many trees as they could. And that's low-lying area anyway, so they have to raise it up to keep from the flooding problem that we have out there. And then the 37-foot or 38-foot, I don't really see a problem with that. And so I'm good with it. I think, and I think it will improve the area, because the more nice rental places that you have, it forces the people that are landlords now to improve their property and keep it in good shape, or they won't have any tenants. So I see it as a positive move for in that way also.
Okay, other comments?
I have a question, or just maybe I need some clarification about the stormwater runoff and the drainage. Would it have a great impact on the residents that's actually out there, or have mechanism or things been put in place to take care of that?
Go ahead. You could probably answer that better than Dennis.
Steve Buswell with Parker Mitchenberg and Associates. Currently, actually what makes this site a little unique is we're having to meet the state's new nutrient loading criteria, which means more retention than what was currently in place a few years back. The answer is yes, we will be providing the pre-post requirement, which is both the city requirement as well as the state's requirement. We're required to get a stormwater permit, an ERP permit from the state, which, again, meets all their rules from a volume, retainage, as well as peak post coming out. So the impacts will be actually improved with this project.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Did you want to say something?
Mr. Bonner had a question regarding a 4-foot drain. Was your question addressed? Sewer drainage.
Okay.
Yeah, something to that effect.
Currently, the city has a 42-inch effluent line, which basically is an interconnect between the Westside Regional and the Bethune Point treatment plant. That's kind of how it gets back and forth, and eventually, if it cannot be used for reuse, it discharges to the river under their current permit. There is a force main, which is what we are connecting to. We are proposing a city standard lift station that has, all the bells and whistles that the city currently requires with the generator and so forth. So if there's outages, they're not shut down in this area. So there's water main extensions, like I mentioned, the roadways coming through. It will be built per the city standards with a sidewalk that will allow residents to basically traverse back and forth to here, as well as the target demographic, which most likely will be Embry-Riddle students. So it gives, the location is ideal. The utilities will be, brought up to, their current standards and extended as required. So that all those existing utilities are in the Shady Place or Terrace Avenue right-of-way are existing.
Anything else? I just felt I should, go ahead, John.
It's more of I think maybe it's a question. The right-of-way extension behind Mr. Bonner's house, is that improved at this point?
That is currently not improved. In discussions with the fire department, they would like it stabilized to a point where it meets their emergency vehicle loads. The intent is not to pave or put concrete down. It is only to clear an area wide enough that they are content with being able to access it back and forth. Again, it's not intended to open up as a quote-unquote right-of-way. It's just a secondary means of emergency access.
So the additional benefit of that is if it's improved to the point where it has to, emergency vehicles need access, it may actually be an improvement and more of a benefit than unimproved the way it is now. So that's my only comment.
Anyway, as I say, I felt I should, for Mr. Hoytsma comment, I love the fact that there's not a single sable palm proposed on this. In fact, actually, it's a really great plant list, very diversified. I think it's certainly with what's happening with Embry-Riddle and the growth that that is experiencing, I mean, I wish you well. Maybe you might work on the design just a little bit, just a little bit.
A few embellishments.
But yeah, it's overall, I mean, it's necessary and it's going to be very welcome. Do I hear any motion?
Make a motion, we approve rezoning residential plan unit development, Eagle Landing, DEV 2013-062, quasi judicial hearing.
Okay.
With the 38-foot height.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
And all other waivers the same. Okay. All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Good luck, guys.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. How many of us are there here? 8? 1, 2, 3, 8.
8.
8, 0. Okay. Okay. Well, they got it. Okay. We'll have our board reports.
Downtown Blue Road. We had a very brief meeting. We actually only had one item on the agenda, and it was for Del Mar Cafe, 180 North Beach Street, conditional use for alcohol service inside the restaurant and out. And it was approved unanimously. The other item was for updates, redevelopment updates, and that was it. I think the meeting was about 27 minutes.
Okay. Midtown, we're waiting on.
Nope, I actually had a chance to attend.
Great, okay.
I attended the Midtown Redevelopment Area Board meeting on Tuesday, September 10th at 6 o'clock. Very interesting meeting. I actually have a lot of work to do. We had, started at 6 o'clock, Mr. Tooley called a meeting after the invocation pledge. We had actually the police department did some mapping as to the sex offenders and the amount of crime that was taking place in that particular time within a given month. Code enforcement, some of the requests that they had for code enforcement was discussed. Also, they had one item that was discussed on the agenda, a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment for Midtown future land use. And then 3 upcoming events. One, Mr. Charles Bryan mentioned that he went to the 2013 ICSC conference in Orlando, which was real beneficial. Second one, they had an Orange Avenue reconstruction project meeting, which would have been Wednesday, September 11th, 2013. And the one that they're really looking forward to is Light Up Midtown event, Saturday, December 7th, 2013. And we got out about 8:10.
Okay. Now, Mr. Barhu, I know that from reading the minutes that you had said that you had a conflict with a lot of the time, and greatly appreciate that you went there. Do you want to continue, or is the board going to be waiting for the new Zone 6 person?
Well, that's pretty much up to the board. I don't mind continuing. I've rearranged some meetings to actually attend. I know everybody on the board, so I mean, it was a good place for me. Enjoyed it, but it's the decision of the board. I'll go either way. I do have meetings that I have to attend, but other than that, I can
do
reschedule.
it?
So,
Okay.
it's up
Board,
to-
would we like to?
You're good.
Yeah, if you're comfortable there and you know, I think that would be great. So, good. That's not something we have to vote on, right? That's just consensus.
He was a fantastic addition to the board.
Yes.
And Ms.
good.
Washington was there. the entire meeting.
Good.
I think it might be helpful
To
because
vote?
because the city
Commission?
commission has to ratify
Oh,
the
yes.
recommendation. So
Okay,
if
that's
that's your
right.
recommendation, we
Okay.
pass that on, tell them,
All
and
right.
have them ratify.
All those in favor of the recommendation that Tony Barhu be the planning board liaison to the Midtown Redevelopment Area Board, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done. Okay, we're all good. Main Street, Mr. Bohan is not here. Public comments, Mr. Nicholson is not here. Mr. Public's not here. Did you have anything you wanted to say, sir? Okay. Staff?
We're trying to move forward with filling the Pratima that was here earlier. She is been hired. Essentially, the position that James Benderson had was moved into IT, and she's one that filled that. She's been with us just a couple weeks, but she's already helped us out a whole lot and is really going to work a lot with our department to help us on our GIS needs. We're also, the senior planner position has closed. They passed on to me the eligibility list. I'm going through those now, actually doing some interviews starting tomorrow, and hope to get that filled as soon as possible as well.
Okay. Board, members of the board, the side, oh, wait. Okay, all right. I have some comments as a board member. You guys are going to need to have someone else bring you your candy. This is my last meeting.
No.
Yes, I have. I stopped by and gave my resignation letter to Commissioner Woods on my way here this evening, and there have just been several personal changes in my life that brought me to this decision where I just need to do some things with family. And I am going to miss this greatly. Out of any board I've been on, and I've been on all of them, just about. And this is the one that has been near and dear to my heart. And the staff and the people that I serve with here, it's just something I'm going to miss greatly, but if I don't leave it, I have things that I will miss even more, and they can't be replaced. So thank all of you all for actually having me as chair. I'm sorry to leave you, and Mr. Neal has said, Mr. Neal has said when I got in, well, you need a few more meetings, and I think I'll get this under my belt. Well, you're going to be thrown into the fire here, Mr. Neal, for the remainder of the year, but I am sure you will be capable at it, and you know.
You guys didn't tell me I was being set up.
In January, we didn't know.
Yeah, we didn't know.
So anyway,
We're going to miss you, Tracy, and I certainly hope that occasionally you will stop by, particularly on important issues that come up.
Thank you.
And I'd like to say, too, you know, we don't always agree, but I certainly have appreciated your knowledge.
Yes.
When you sit up there and say, according to Section 17,
Yes.
subsection 3B, I'm going, no. But that, you know, your dedication, devotion, your passion, and your intelligence has certainly been appreciated.
Thanks, yeah. And I've enjoyed when we have agreed.
We have several times.
We have. The longer we serve
I'd
together.
like to point out we have a cake in the back room for everyone to wish her well and join us after the meeting's over.
Oh, thank you. Oh, good. Ooh, cake. I should have done this sooner. No, no.
Did Tracy, is it sugar-free?
Well, it's probably not. It's probably not. And actually, and I do have my resignation letter for the record, too, a copy of it, of what I gave. So that saying, we are adjourned.